They walk among us, silent, steady, unseen by most. Eyes that have witnessed more than they'll ever say. Hearts that have healed wounds no one even noticed. The chosen ones, rare souls wrapped in humility, yet born of fire. They are the ones who bend so others won't break. The ones who stay soft, in a world that celebrates cruelty. You've felt it, haven't you? That calm around them, that peace. The way they enter a room and shift the atmosphere without saying a word. They forgive when others hold grudges. They understand when no one else even tries. And they love, even when it costs them everything. But here's the part no one dares to speak of. What happens when you cross that line? What happens when life squeezes them too tight? When betrayal cuts too deep? When they've been patient for far too long? You see, the chosen are not weak. They are restrained. And that's not the same thing. There's a side of them no one wants to meet. A side born in the fire they survived. A side that doesn't scream. It awakens. Not in rage, but in righteous strength. Divine strength. The kind that doesn't ask for permission. The kind that moves mountains or clears them out of the way. Today, you'll understand why these souls are both the kindest and the most feared. Why their love feels like heaven, but their silence feels like judgment. Why they walk in peace, but carry thunder inside. And by the end of this video, if you are one of them, you'll no longer doubt it. If this speaks to your soul already, don't wait. Hit the like button, so this light reaches who needs it. Subscribe if you haven't. You were meant to be here. And type 99 in the comments, a prophetic number of divine awakening. Because something in you is rising, something sacred, something unstoppable. Are you ready to see who you really are? Let's begin. They don't wear crowns. They don't need attention. The chosen ones are quiet because they're listening, watching, feeling, not just their own emotions, but yours too. They walk into a room and instantly absorb what others try to hide. Pain, fear, anger, loneliness. It's as if their spirit was designed to detect the silent suffering of this world. But here's what no one sees. That level of empathy. It's exhausting. They don't just understand what others feel. They carry it. And they carry it alone. Not because they have to, but because they were made to. Every smile they give is a choice. Every moment of compassion is a conscious act of resistance against the hardness of the world. You might see them helping strangers, comforting the forgotten, or forgiving things that would have broken anyone else. But what you don't see is what it costs them. They feel everything deeper. A careless word, it echoes. A broken promise, it carves. But still, they show up. Not because it's easy, because it's right. You might assume they were born soft. No, they became gentle after surviving everything that tried to make them cruel. See, the chosen ones were not placed here to blend in. They are not mirrors, they are healers. While others chase status or validation, they chase restoration. They walk away from fights they could win, because peace is more important than pride. They say, "I forgive you," when their soul is still bleeding. Not because they're weak, but because they refuse to let hate win. And yet, that very gentleness is what makes people underestimate them. Because the world only respects what it fears. And the chosen? They don't intimidate, they elevate. But here's the warning no one pays attention to. Even the purest river has a breaking point. Even the most patient soul can be cornered. And when that day comes, when a chosen one is pushed beyond the limits of grace, you will witness something you never expected. And once you see it, you'll never unsee it. But we'll get there. First, you need to understand why they are so often misunderstood, even by the very people they save. They don't raise their voice. They don't chase attention. They don't fight to be understood. And that's exactly why they are so often misunderstood. The chosen ones don't need to prove anything. Their presence speaks louder than words, and their silence often confuses the loudest souls in the room. People look at them and assume they're passive, uninterested, or emotionally fragile. But what they fail to see is that still water runs deep. And in the stillness of the chosen, there is power few can comprehend. They wait before reacting, not because they don't notice, but because they see everything. They hold back, not because they're afraid, but because they're measuring consequences. They forgive, not because it didn't hurt, but because they refuse to become what tried to break them. But the world doesn't know how to process this kind of strength, so it mislabels it. People say things like, "She's too nice," "He's too quiet," "They're too soft." But the truth is far more dangerous than those labels suggest. You can only misunderstand a chosen one until life reveals what they've survived, because the ones who smile the most are often the ones who've cried alone for years. The ones who seem too patient are often the ones who've had to rebuild themselves in silence. And the ones who choose not to strike back are usually the ones who know exactly how much damage they could do, and consciously choose not to. They walk away from petty battles because they're built for greater wars. But here's what no one tells you. There's a fine line between being misunderstood and being underestimated. And when you underestimate a chosen one, you invite something you're not ready for. Because they don't fight to destroy, they fight to awaken. They don't come for revenge. They come for justice. And when they move, it's not loud. It's divine. They're not afraid of war. They've already fought one within themselves, and won. So don't mistake their silence for surrender. Because when the moment comes, and it always does, the world finally sees what was hidden behind their stillness. And that revelation, it changes everything. But before that day comes, you must understand the power they've been holding back all along. There's something hidden behind their eyes, a silence that hums like distant thunder, a calm that doesn't come from comfort, but from surviving what should have destroyed them. The chosen ones are not what they appear. On the outside, gentle, humble, quiet. But on the inside, there's a lion, sleeping, waiting, watching. And that lion wasn't born from pride. It was born from pain. It was born the day they were broken and chose to rebuild, not once, not twice, but again and again and again. They've walked through betrayals that would have shattered others. They've stood in the aftermath of relationships that collapsed like glass. They've stared down storms that promised to swallow them whole. And still, they stood, not untouched, but undefeated. That's where the power comes from. Not from perfection, but from resurrection. You see, true strength doesn't announce itself. It hides, it heals, it learns, it evolves. And then, when the moment comes, it awakens. The chosen ones were never just survivors. They are refined. Every tear was a baptism. Every betrayal, a lesson. Every loss, a recalibration. And now, they don't just carry scars, they carry weapons made from them. Their voice may be soft, but their truth is sharp. Their movements may be slow, but their discernment is instant. And when they rise, it's not for revenge, it's for alignment, because something in the spiritual realm has shifted, and they've been summoned. And here's the most terrifying part for those who ever tried to break them. They don't need to prove anything, because when a chosen one steps into their power, heaven confirms it. The earth responds to it, and every lie spoken against them starts to unravel. They rise with fire, not to burn everything down, but to illuminate everything that's been hidden in the dark. And when that fire burns, nothing untrue can survive. But we're not at the fire yet. First, you need to see what happens when the world dares to provoke a soul that was never meant to stay silent. There's a moment, a line you never see until it's already been crossed. And once it is, everything changes. The chosen ones don't explode. They don't scream. They transform. All their quiet grace, their patience, their empathy, it doesn't vanish. It shifts. It becomes something sharper, cleaner, like light passing through glass. It becomes a laser. Because when you provoke a chosen one, when you take their gentleness for granted, when you chip away at their loyalty, when you keep pushing, assuming they'll never push back, you're not waking up a victim. You're awakening a guardian. Their silence turns into thunder, not the kind that destroys, but the kind that shakes everything loose. They won't curse you out. They won't come for your destruction. They'll look you in the eye and speak truth so clear, so undeniable, that it cuts through every illusion. That's what people don't expect. They think provoking a chosen one will trigger emotion. But what it actually triggers is alignment. Suddenly the masks fall. The fake peace dissolves, and the real boundaries appear, like stone rising from the sea. They don't raise walls out of hate. They draw lines out of wisdom. They're not bitter. They're awake. And once they wake up to the patterns, the disrespect, the cycles, they don't just step away. They elevate. You won't find them arguing. You'll find them gone. Not because they're punishing you, but because their energy has graduated from your chaos. And that departure, that silence, that's the loudest thing you'll ever feel. Because when a chosen one finally sees that you were never meant to walk beside them, they don't burn bridges. They build kingdoms without you. And here's the twist no one expects. Their absence feels heavier than their presence ever did. Because when they loved you, you were being covered. When they forgave you, you were being protected. When they stayed, you were being held in divine mercy. But when they rise and walk away, you're left standing in the echo of everything they were silently giving. And that echo, it lingers. But don't mistake this awakening for bitterness. It's not about revenge. It's about divine justice. It's about spiritual order being restored. And when they reach that point, there's only one question left to ask. If the gentlest soul you've ever known no longer has space for you, what does that say about what you brought into their presence? Now, it's time to reveal what happens after the fire, what remains when the storm is over, and the chosen stand in the ashes, unshaken. There's a sacred duality within the chosen that defies logic and confounds expectation. They are light, but not naive. They are kind, but not weak. They are loving, but never blind. They walk a razor's edge between heaven and earth, carrying compassion in one hand and unshakable truth in the other. And this is what makes them so rare, so divine. They don't just survive darkness. They absorb it, understand it, and transform it. See, the power of a chosen one isn't in how loud they speak, but in the weight their presence carries. They walk into a room and shift the atmosphere. Not because they demand attention, but because their energy speaks a language that only the spirit can hear. They are protectors, not of territory, but of truth. They guard peace the way warriors guard gates, not with violence, but with unshakable presence. They were never meant to be the center of attention. They were meant to be the center of clarity when everything else falls apart. And here's the paradox. They love deeply, yet know when to let go. They forgive, but carry the lessons as armor. They serve with humility, but carry the roar of a lion in their chest, ready to rise when destiny calls. This is the essence of divine balance. To stand in love without losing yourself. to extend grace without becoming a doormat, to feel everything and still choose truth over comfort. Because the chosen weren't placed on this earth to fit in. They weren't called to be liked. They were commissioned to lead, and leadership, true spiritual leadership, demands more than charisma. It requires consecration, a soul refined by fire, a heart strong enough to carry others, and wise enough to know when to walk alone. They awaken others by example. They shine, not to be seen, but to remind others of the light buried inside themselves. They correct without shaming. They confront without crushing. They challenge, not from ego, but from revelation. And when it's time, when the atmosphere shifts and something unseen begins to stir, they don't panic. They rise, not to dominate, but to realign. Because sometimes love must roar. Sometimes mercy must wear armor. Sometimes the kindest thing a soul can do is stand firm and refuse to shrink. And it's in that moment that the world begins to understand this balance, this fusion of gentleness and fire, isn't just personality. It's divine design, but the story's not over yet. There's one final truth, one last revelation that every chosen one must carry as they walk into their destiny. If you are one of the chosen, you already know. You were never built for comfort. You were forged for impact. You were not placed here to blend in. You were sent to shift the atmosphere. Your soul? It's not fragile. It's sacred. It bends, but never breaks. It loves, but never begs. It serves, but never surrenders its worth. This world tried to tame you, tried to silence your fire, tried to shame your softness. But your softness is the evidence of your anointing. The scars you carry, they're not your shame. They're your certification, proof that you've walked through fire and came out glowing. And now it's time. Time to walk like the light you are, to speak like the storm you survived, to love with intention, but protect your spirit with fire. Because when the chosen rise, everything shifts. Cycles break, chains fall. Darkness trembles. Let the world misunderstand you. Let them call you too much, too deep, too intense. That's fine. You weren't made for them. You were crafted for purpose. So the next time someone questions your boundaries, or mocks your heart, or tries to provoke what they don't understand, stand tall, stand still, and remember, you are wrapped in divine authority, backed by heaven, covered by the King.